our topic for today is how to be influential when you're new to your role or new to leadership. And yeah, that is an interesting one. And people seem to be concerned with that one. I can understand. And yeah, I've given it some thoughts. It's not the first time
Yeah,
that I was asked this question. How about
it is a
yourself?
tough one, isn't it? You might be fresh out of uni in your first job, and you've got the team you're working with. You don't necessarily have direct line authority over them because normally that first situation where you're exercising leadership, you don't have line authority. You've got to influence people to work with you, to
Yeah, yeah,
agree to your leadership if you want, almost, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, when I would also like to start with the word influence, what that means, because a lot of times people are under the impression that if I have influence, I can always influence others to agree to my ideas or proposals. And I think that's not necessarily what influence is about. Convincing someone to agree, um, being accepting of a proposal. I think if you roll it back, the first step is that you actually get someone else to listen to your proposal. That would be the first step.
Mm,
That's already a lot. If someone in
mm,
the professional world says, okay, you have an idea for a project, tell me what it is about, and then actually, listening to it, listening to your idea, accepting is a whole different other story. And I find also when you're new in a role, a position, a company, um, people obviously don't know you. So, for them to be able to listen to you, I find you need to listen to them first. So, what I um, did is I just did the round. When I was new, I just had said hello to certain, leaders or department leaders or wherever I was, or other project
mm,
managers, had a meeting with them and got to know them and asked them, how can I work best with you? Or what do you need? Or how do you see it going? Before, you come up with your own proposal. So I think that's the first step, is that you listen to others around
mm,
you. And I remember that was sort of further down my career. I was sitting with a department leader in his office, and I've asked him, how can I help you? And he was like, to me, nobody has ever asked me that.
mm.
And the thing is, I did help him. He asked me, this would be very helpful if you do that. And then you actually have to go and make it happen and give updates and let them know. And
Yeah, because
and
that's
that,
really important, Jacqueline. It's not just getting it done, it's being seen getting it done. So you do need to do the updates. You need to make sure that you're informing people of what you are getting done on their behalf.
yeah,
Um,
that's
yeah.
right. And unless they're already involved in it. And you will be surprised how long this will go, because years later, in the same company with the same person, I was promoted to this, I think it was director level. And it so happened that he was reporting to me, which was quite an interesting, because he changed roles and changed departments and so forth. And then he came into my office, and I knew he also applied for the role. The reason he didn't get it, not because he wasn't qualified enough, it was because he was on a very important program and they couldn't let him go. He came to my office and he said, Jacqueline, I know both of us wanted the role. You got it. I understand. I need to stay there because it's so critical. And he said, but I'm very happy to support you.
Yeah.
I almost, like, I got quite emotional. that's how far this can go. I would have never been able to even anticipate the situation. And he respected me. Wow.
Mm.
I
You know,
was
you've touched
just,
on some really important points there, Jacqueline, and because when you come into a role, when you're the outsider, very often you can see improvements that you believe can be made in the systems, and there's a temptation to go, oh, hey, at so and so we did this and this, or we learned that and that, and perhaps we could do this over here. Cool your jets. Write down your ideas. Think about your ideas, but do as what Jacqueline says. That's the smart way of going about it. Go about building relationships. Go about asking questions so as that you really do understand perhaps why things are the way they are. That'll save you an embarrassment of having put a silly idea up that won't work in that environment. Um, but also it'll position you to be heard above all else
yeah,
because you're
yeah,
offering to serve. So
yeah.
it's a service. Would you say that it's a service leadership model that you go and offer to serve and then do the work?
Yeah, that's right. And it is amazing. You can be a junior person, but you can be very influential. I mean, we had a lot of junior people presenting ideas for technology, renovations, new projects, and that did get heard. They did not all
Mm.
get accepted, maybe only a tiny amount, but just being able to verbalize and present your ideas in front of the leadership team is already a huge exposure. If it's rejected, it's not a rejection of you personally. You've already been heard. It's because there are other priorities, and most of the times project ideas will be rejected. Only a few will make it through. So if you then think, oh, I'm not influential, no, if you actually get to present your idea, you are already influential. And the reality of things is that very few ideas will go further. And not because they're bad ideas, it's because there are other priorities.
That's right. There's
Um,
limited resources and then they get allocated. But smart companies are looking for ideas and they're looking for people who are going to generate ideas. But they're also looking to see what that person's doing to really understand the business that they're operating in, so that that idea can be presented in the context of the business's capabilities. Because the more you do that, the more likelihood the idea is going to be accepted up the line. Um, and even if it isn't, it's the experience of working out how your idea might work in the organization gives you a greater knowledge of the organization, and that makes you a more valuable employee. And here comes that word again, and that makes you more influential.
that's right.
So you're more important to the company because you're putting the work in to understand what the company needs.
And you raised a really good point also that, when people learn, employees learn to put their ideas in the context of business. So they can also show, I understand the business needs, I understand the risks, I understand the processes that this idea has to go through. That's a very important part. Sort of on a side note, I often noticed that that was missing in ideas. It's not enough to just have a great idea. You
Hmm.
also need, people sometimes think that, and I don't want to disqualify great ideas, but it is in the execution. It's not, the world is full of great ideas, and that's great, but it's the execution where it often stumbles or
Mm,
mostly stumbles. So if you
mm,
can make yourself known and you find out, you do some research, you talk to different departments, how would they be involved in it? What do they see as their risks? This all makes you more, it makes you more seen, heard, people know you, and that makes you all a lot more influential.
And it shows you have a grip on common sense. I mean, really, it is common sense. You've seen the idea. Chances are your idea is not unique. The chances are of an idea being unique when you think about it in a world of near perfect information is really, really remote. So therefore, it's the management of that idea, the execution, as you say, Jacqueline, that is the determinant of who will reap the rewards from it. And
Yeah,
it's effort in, effort out. You'll get the result if you put the work in the longer term. And there's another
yeah,
thing here. You can be beavering away on project A that might be your pet idea, okay? And it might be going nowhere, but somebody else has another idea and they go, well, hang on, if we plug these two together, magic can happen. So, yeah, I totally
that,
agree with your approach, Jacqueline. Get in there, be part of the service to the team and to those managers that you're answerable to and those ones that you have a line a matrix to work with, those that you need to work with. Go be influential in terms of putting that extra work in, and most importantly, be you. Don't try and be somebody else. Be
mm,
you, right?
yeah,
Bring your unique self to that discussion because if you don't, and this is a key point, people who come in and pretend that they're this, that, and the other thing, or that they can do it all instead of knowing where their limitations are, they're inherently untrustworthy. If you're sitting there
yeah,
as a senior manager and somebody's telling me how good they are, I might go and not trusting you. Because if you are good enough, you don't need to tell me. You just get on with it, right?
yeah.
You, you,
Everyone
you,
knows.
yeah. So just be authentic, be you, know your limitations, know where you're at, be vulnerable, be
That
open to feedback, and listen. Listening's super important. This is how you influence. And you
that
don't
is
need to have a badge on your door saying manager or boss.
that is so important. Also, being authentic to, any weaknesses or authentic to any risks of the project. I mean, one thing that management wants to know, what are my risks here? So you want to dig deep and find the risks and ask many people, and that's not a downside. That's just sort of a proof of that you've done proper research. And the other thing you also mentioned, which I think is really important, is when you work for a corporation or a business, you can't really just hold on to your idea or this is my idea. This is, you want to be open and collaborate. And if you collaborate, as you mentioned, with another person who has sort of another aspect of this idea, or another part of this project, and you can collaborate and then actually develop something much more fantastic. That's where you want to go, and that's where the rewards are. So, you don't want to my precious idea, holding on to it. It will
Yeah, don't
limit.
worry about it being stolen because
Yeah,
everybody knows it anyway. Just assume everybody knows it, but be part and service. The idea is in service. And
yeah,
and look, I remember when I was working in the entrepreneurial world or studying entrepreneurial during my MBA, one of the professors made the point that the first idea that you want to bring to the market as an entrepreneur, you are probably going to give, if it gets to the market, you're probably going to end up giving 80, 90% at least of those profits away. But the 10% that you get to keep, that gets you with another idea. And then you get to keep maybe 20% of the profits. Because if you don't have money to back and you're looking at getting angel investors and putting money into your idea, and essentially when you're working in a corporate environment, that's what you're asking the company to do. You're asking them to back your idea, so don't expect the first one to get you the managing director's job because that ain't happening. But what it can do is prove yourself to be a valuable idea generator. And as you keep going, because you'll have many, many more, particularly if you spend the time understanding the business systems, how the business actually operates,
Mm.
and then as are able to express potential efficiencies or opportunities um, uh, based on your further research. So you don't need to get the whole kit and caboodle on your first idea. Better that you share it, give it away, because after all, as I just expressed, it's probably going to get taken off you anyway. So just give it away, give up, and maybe you get to work on it. That's cool.
Yeah, giving it away. I know it's a bit of a tough one. I mean, sometimes I worked, not sometimes, I worked in software development my whole corporate career, not as a software developer, more as a manager, but I've got to see a lot about software development. And one of the things which we spoke about earlier regarding software development, we always had said is that everything regarding software development, every algorithm, every feature type of thing, libraries, has already been invented. So the idea is, understanding new technologies, making it work, putting it together. So it was, and software developers understand that they look at, okay, I need to have this feature, this algorithm, and then they go and look for a library where that is already being developed. And that's one of the things that sometimes is uh, maybe a little bit misunderstood, or people think, oh, I'm going to create it from scratch. So the thing is, as you also said, a lot of things have already been thought through, and sort of humbling yourself and understanding that and accepting that and thinking, oh, okay, someone has already done it. So, and that's okay. You're just putting it, if we're talking software development, you're just putting it in a different context. Like my daughter works in fashion. She has her own fashion clothing line label, and nothing that's been presented in fashion wasn't there already. It's just put in different contexts, different combinations. And I
Mm.
said to her the other day, well, I used to wear something like this when I was a teenager, and she said, yeah, yeah. And that's when it was really new, you know, that's when it wasn't seen before. And now it's come in different variations. And yeah, so a little bit of track here. But it's also being a little bit humble about how great an idea is, and all ideas are great in themselves, but also what are some resources that you already have that you can reuse. And this is something that management really likes. If you say, I have this great idea, we can do it like this, but we can purchase existing functionality or libraries or whatever and integrate it and then make it happen. So being smart about it rather than, oh, this is my idea, we're gonna, create it from
And
scratch.
really
Um,
interesting to hear you say about that about software development because clearly I didn't live in that world. I lived in international trade, and our trick was very similar though, because what we would do is we'd take an idea that worked in one market and take it to a new where, and it was quite old and everybody understood it and it was practical. You knew how it all worked. And then you take that over to a new market. Now, a new market could be another country or it could be a different commodity. So taking what worked in the paper market and introducing it into plastic film as a new idea looks innovative, but we've got all the tools because we've been doing it in the paper market for 20 years. So
that's
it's
that's
it's this export of ideas from an established market into a potentially new market, or from an established idea into a potentially new idea, a new piece of software versus from an established piece. This idea of transferring of ideas, that's very much there. But getting back to this influencing thing, another thing about ideas, because we've said a bit here now about, well, keep a lid on your ideas, but I don't really mean that. I'm going to contradict myself now. Again, bring them up. but understand that like might get battered back. This is your relationship with vulnerability, your ability to take feedback, your ability to have the courage to go forward and say, well, you know, I have been, as I say, in context of the business, get to understand Jacqueline's point number one, get in the business, get serving the business, get to understand the business, make notes of where you think the improvements can be. But when you're ready, then speak up
Mm.
and make it okay that this is a learning experience. Look, I'm fairly new here. I don't know whether this is right or wrong, but I feel like I need to make this suggestion. You might be surprised. They
That's
might go, wow. But, and it might be old hat for you again. Remember this transference from one market to another, one idea to another. It could be something that you've known forever, but, be courageous enough to put it up. And I will say this, in danger of being sexist, if you're a woman, be doubly courageous because men tend to go where angels fear to tread and women tend to let them do it. But sometimes that means they get the credit for your idea because they got it from your desk. Don't let that
that's
happen.
yeah, unfortunately, yeah, I've also in my practice noticed this. Women in general still, let's say, use the word, still find it harder to express their ideas. There's just different
Mm.
ways of doing things and going about things. Yeah, also a little exclaimer to women: speak up, speak up. It's okay if someone rejects you. And yeah.
And I know a really good coach.
Right, right,
Get hold
right.
of Jacqueline. She can help you. She can help you find your voice and find your way. But these are the
Yeah,
things that uh, it is daunting when you get that first role where you want to make an impact.
and
I remember being appointed as a product manager somewhere in my dark past, and I wanted to make a go of this because marketing was my thing. I think I was all of about 21 at the time, you know. So these are serious memories, and you get in there and you want to make an impact, and often like I was always in a hurry, always in a hurry to do the next thing, you know. But you really do need to, as Jacqueline says, get those relationships as quickly as what you can.
yeah,
Get out there
yeah,
and meet the people and be willing to serve and be willing to learn.
yeah, yeah. Also interesting point with the younger generation is always more in a hurry, and that's fine. The more seniors taking it a little bit slower, as in, oh, let's think about that. And that also applies to influence. You have to be a little bit patient.
Mm.
You're not going to be, for the first one. You have to build your influence, and you have to sort of, or you want to have a broad spectrum of people that you can relate to within the company or the business. So it takes some time to build this level of influence. And I also thought another point is also because we spoke about ideas, presenting ideas, and then the idea, most ideas will be rejected. Also take it in your stride and be mature about it, and maybe talk to your boss, you know, talk to you about it, or talk to him or her about it. What can be improved the next time, or what was it lacking if you didn't, completely get the reasoning. The reasoning is not always conveyed publicly, and sort of show this maturity. Okay, if I present another idea another time, I'm going to take these points into consideration and make it a more complete presentation, if that's the case.
Yeah, because
So
it can
yeah.
be not a no, it can be a not now.
Hey, that's right, and that's actually a good one. Not now.
Yeah.
So there's yeah. So there are a lot of things that you can do to become influential if you're new to a company, if you're new in a leadership role. And it is also an opportunity. Like when you're new to a company or a leadership role, that's your opportunity to actually make all these connections, because everyone is curious. Oh, who is this new person?
Mm.
Now there, and what are they about? So you have usually you land on open ears, so to speak. Also in the leadership, if you're new to leadership, people want to understand. Oh, we have a new, project manager or a new director. Who is this person? What are they about? And let's see. And that's your opportunity to build on even previous influence if you moved up a role,
Mm.
or create an influence.
Jacqueline, I want to go emphasize the point here of authenticity again. I know you touched on it earlier on, but I can't be more clear on this, that when you roll up, it is the opportunity if you're in a new company that it's a fresh start. Um, but don't be anybody other than you.
Yeah,
Don't oversell yourself, because you're just creating problems for yourself. That's what you're doing. And your sphere of influence will collapse in on you very, very quickly. Because
that's
whilst you're in the honeymoon period, that interest period, that's the opportunity to be modest, work hard, perform well, and doing your job. The company has invested a lot of money putting you in that position.
yeah,
So they obviously trust you. They obviously believe in you. So believe in yourself. Take that as a vote of confidence. And the only silly question that you'll ever ask in a new job is the one you don't ask, because that's the one that'll get you in trouble. Because you think,
yeah,
oh, that's silly, you know. And it's a little bit like the emperor's new clothes. Oh, he's not wearing, you think you shouldn't say that because that might be offensive, or you might look dumb. This relationship with vulnerability. It's okay to look dumb. You're the newbie. You're the newbie. So be dumb. Be dumb in the first 6 months. It won't do you any harm because the company's invested in you. And you're
mm,
just being a sponge, really. What you're really doing is just taking on board all this information and being genuinely you and get going about your business. The other thing is steer well clear of office gossip. Don't get into the politics. That's just a side one, but if that you want to undo yourself, way you go. Get involved in the office politics.
yeah. It's actually a good point. Yeah, so stay away from it.
Mm.
And yeah, and also hold people to account or ask questions. If gossip occurs, ask questions. How do you know this to be true, and so forth. Don't buy into gossip. It's just not good, and it'll come back. It's just really not a very good sort of image, to say the least. Plus, it's unfair.
That's right.
Yeah,
And it can happen because, particularly if you get put on as a group, like two or three product managers at a time type of idea, you know. So you're competing and there's a temptation there. But
yeah. Don't.
better than try and drag them down, try and make your colleagues better.
That's
Support them.
yeah,
Do everything you can to make those
yeah,
that would be your future competitors, make them rock stars. And I'll tell you what, your boss will notice who's making them rock stars. And if he
yeah,
doesn't, well,
yeah,
hey, you know what you're doing. You've
yeah,
got a future.
yeah. Yeah, that's right. Don't put other people down. Acknowledge them for their good ideas and be fair. And the thing is, comes back to you and makes you feel better, and it's authentic because it's authentic. I think, yeah, that's a very good point, being authentic and don't try to imitate someone. I know on the
Mm.
world stage, people are sometimes imitated. I know Steve Jobs, for example, was imitated, in his whole demeanor and the way he was wearing his turtleneck, and people imitated that. But it wasn't authentic. I mean, only Steve Jobs, that was Steve
That's
Jobs.
right.
And
It's not as if you can't admire these people, and it's not as if you
yeah,
can't learn from them, right?
yeah,
And that's absolutely. but do it your way. Do it with
Yeah,
your
yeah,
theme and
yeah.
your values and your beliefs. Um, and by all means, in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, he talks about the idea of having a board of directors of people in your head that
Mm,
you might throw a decision to. So these are pick four people that in history even that you know a bit about. You know a bit about how they're thinking. It might could maybe it could be family or could be Nelson Mandela, one of my favorites, or Napoleon Hill or Andrew Carnegie or whoever. And you ask you before you make a decision, you go to your board and say, okay, what would each of you folks say about this? And that helps you to get a different perspective on the problem that you're trying to deal with. And those different perspectives will inevitably make your decision making that much better.
yeah, that's a really interesting approach, and it does work. And I think on that note, we again come to the end of this
We've bowled
podcast.
another one, have we? Great. That's
Yeah, we
wonderful. Excellent. Well, if
we,
you
we
like
can,
it, share it.
yeah, please like it, subscribe, share. We could be sitting here for another 2 hours talking on how to be influential, but we also
Mm,
know that you are limited in time, and we don't want to just waffle on.
yeah. So thanks for your
Yeah,
time.
and I hope we see you again next time.